Rob Hornby, Managing Director and Head of EMEA at AlixPartners. Rob, very good morning to you. So that's the outline of what CEOs think is the problem and what they're going to do about it. What does it tangibly mean, though, in terms of reorganising businesses?
Good morning. I think it means that they need to reorganize their businesses. There's been a sense of battening down, I think, inevitably in the COVID period. But now what we're seeing is a rise, excuse me, in the number of CEOs, the leaders of businesses changing their business models now. So I think that they think that now is the time, and they're adapting to, I think, an array of disruptive forces that I've never seen in my working life.
So, well, go through that array then. Obviously, we've got historic inflation that, I don't know, you're not the same vintage as me, which I saw in the late 70s as well. We've got a war on the continent, which, of course, neither of us, thankfully, have seen before now in our lives as well. What are the key factors for you in this array of confluence of events?
I think businesses are in the jaws of short-term and long-term disruptive forces. So in the short term, of course, you've been talking about them this morning: recession, inflation, these sorts of factors, of course, the effect of the war, including on supply chain. But there are long-term things that have not gone away. The effects of geopolitical change, the digital transformation that people are still grappling with, demographic changes, they're still acting on businesses. And we see this confluence of short-term and long-term factors making it pretty tough out there.
I want to ask you a little bit further about business reorganization. It feels there's a number of companies that are concerned about the amount of headcount they have. They're slimming down teams. Some are sort of folding divisions into others as well. Just talk us through why the next couple of years could demand a different type of organization to what we've seen during this growth phase.
I think companies are increasingly focused on understanding their costs. I think they're focused on cash as we go into a recessionary period. And of course, that's not the only thing that's going on. Consumer behavior, cost of living crisis, there's a lot of competition for people's discretionary spend. And so companies are having to think very carefully about what they can afford to do without and where they need to focus. And actually, focus is a big challenge. CEOs have told us that 85% of them anyway are not actually quite sure how to prioritize what they need to do.
I want to pick up another stat that you've got in your research, that 83% find that the board of directors often impedes the process when it comes to business models. Is there some tension between the C-suite and the board here, and what's the root cause of that?
I think there is, and this is also very much in the context of technology. I am a technologist by background, and I've seen this very much firsthand. The sorts of spends required for digital transformation are very significant. The failure rates have been very high. I think boards of directors are rightly concerned about embarking on very, very substantial investments, particularly in a very challenging period. And yet I think executives know, and they feel every day, the pressure for that transformation and the need to keep up, not just with their competitors, but also with the expectations of their customers, be they other businesses or consumers.
Rob, can I ask you about the labour issue? Here we are, we've got non-farm payrolls report today we're talking about, and there clearly is evidence that companies are trying very hard to retain labour, and they're trying very hard to keep those workers happy in what are quite tight labour markets at the moment. What they're trying not to do is pay them too much more at this point. What do you think happens going forward? Are we going to see management teams ultimately move away from sort of small perks and incentives that encourage loyalty and actually move to more significant compensation and pay arrangements to keep those key workers?
It's a great question. And I do sense that the peak of the pressure in the talent market could be behind us. Some of the recessionary conditions and some of what we see, particularly in the tech market, I think is starting to take the edge off it. But there's no doubt that finding the right people is still very, very difficult, and retaining them is difficult too. There was a period of just crazy dynamics, I think, where people were holding 3 or 4 offers and they were being offered a different job every day. But those days, I think, are behind us. Companies, I think, are trying to strike a balance between the long-term effects of the inflationary pressure on wages, but with the need to retain top quality talent. I think they are threading that needle quite well. And I think we'll see that situation improve over the course of 2023.
Well, I hope you're right, Rob, since we are all, many of us, workers. Rob Hornby, Managing Director and Head of EMEA for AlixPartners.